Thanks to AT&T and Samsung for sponsoring this video. Check out the new Samsung Galaxy Note 20 Ultra 5G with ultimate AT&T 5G connectivity for next level power on everything you love to do on your phone, from gaming and streaming to so much more.
Welcome back to Technical Difficulties, coming to you from my totally unsoundproofed home labor space / where my kids go to learn new words. As a side bonus, now that both of my kids are doing home virtual learning, I can potentially teach dozens of kids new words if I'm not careful. Speaking of kids, if you've ever seen any of my streams, you'll know that my children are experts at sneaking out of their rooms at night. Occasionally to burst in and hold me at Nerf Point for snacks and or $20. It's a good plan, but you can't get caught on camera, kid. So today, we're going to try and rig up some early warning systems for anyone that lives with ninjas or just nosy people. As a side note, while yes, you could use this to make a DIY alarm system, please, please, please do not trust anything you build yourself with your home safety. Unless you're a Green Beret or Kevin McAllister, then hey, you do you. This will be some basic building blocks that we can use to hopefully trigger more complicated solutions in the future. Sort of the level 1 of intrusion warning systems. To do that, we need ways to detect said intruders. I'm going to focus on rigging up a system to detect when a door opens and maybe a vibration sensor. When I'm making the show, I always try to figure out how to MacGyver a solution to something using things you might find at home instead of going full Arduino with it. See, I dropped the extra R for you people out there that are purists. There are plenty of cheap motion sensors, vibration alarms, sound detector modules that are compatible with small electronics if you know how to wire and code for them. I built something special for this episode. It's heavy. Ta-da! The Technical Difficulties Hobbit Door. I can already hear the outrage over its lack of proper paint job, much as was evident in the Nerf episode. And to you artists out there, I say, I respect your talents, because I possess none of it. The only class I really had trouble in when I went to school for computer animation was the class that required traditional art skills, because I don't have any. Seriously, I almost messed up just painting the Can Crusher black. So now I have a tiny Hobbit door made out of a 2x6 frame, a piece of masonite, which is what this smooth surface on this door is, some 2x4 hinges, a ball latch, which is what this is, and a handle. We also need an alarm. Thankfully, your grandma gave you one for your birthday last year. I'm pretty sure anything one of these cards plays would be copyrighted, so let's see what Alec dubs in over this. What I heard was a chorus of cats singing Happy Birthday, which was haunting enough. Whatever you heard probably scarred you for life. So let's rip this cute cat's face off and see what makes it tick. Or whatever it was that you heard. Look away, cat lovers. So inside we have this little trigger strip, which keeps this metal arm here from touching a contact underneath. When you pull the card open, the strip slides out, exposing a gap cut into it, which lets the metal touch and complete the circuit. It's got 2 watch batteries powering it and a small speaker. The sound must be encoded on a small integrated circuit under this little black thing right here. It only goes off once, so it must need the contact to be cut to reset it back to ready to play. Considering we aren't going to build in a way to shut it off with a key or code or magic gesture, that's not really a bad thing. So the quick and dirty way to do this will be just to take this strip and I think attach it to the door frame, and then we'll just stick the rest of this to the door itself. I'm going to try and do this with some of these two-sided adhesive strips that are used for mounting these plastic hooks on your wall. Let's see if it works. Man, they did not spare on the adhesive on this thing. I wonder if it'll just stick on there with the leftover adhesive. Huh. Probably should have given some thought to moving that closer to the edge. All right, so I'm lining up the sensor with the edge of the door. I'm just going to rip this strip off and maybe just use regular tape for that. And by regular tape, I mean the unofficial sponsor of Technical Difficulties, regular Scotch electrical tape. Electrical tape, which I don't remember buying, and I think it just follows me through life, soul-bound, never running out, and never far from me. Instead of using the side with the gap, I'm going to use the reverse so that it'll pull cleanly out when the door opens. Okay, so now when I open the door, that should pull free and connect it, and we'll hear something. This episode is brought to you by The Boys Season 2. Hey, our favorite underdog anti-heroes, the boys, are back to continue their battle against the Seven. And the stakes are even higher. Still licking their wounds from last season's losses, and now on the run, the team is going to need more than just thoughts of revenge if they hope to stand a chance against the world's most powerful superheroes. They must expose Compound V and the way that Vought and the Seven manipulate the public to stay in power, all while grappling with their own vulnerabilities along the way. This season promises deeper dives into the characters, their motivations, and the chance to see the humanity behind the supes. Will the boys be able to take down the corrupt establishment and change the status quo? Or will they be crushed by the ultimate power of Vought and the Seven? To find out, go to Amazon.com/TheBoys to watch The Boys Season 2 starting on September 4th. Again, that's Amazon.com/TheBoys starting on September 4th to watch Season 2 of The Boys. And hey, go check out Season 1 now, all available on Amazon Prime. Ah, the dulcet sounds of whatever that was. Now that worked fine, but the reset on it is really annoying. Ideally, we want something that would trigger when the door opens and then automatically reset for the next use. If you ever wondered how regular door sensors work, they usually use a magnet and what's called a reed switch. A reed switch is basically a thin piece of metal that hovers over a metal plate so that when you apply a magnetic force, it pulls it down into contact, completing the circuit. And while I could have just bought one on Amazon, either in a lovely package pre-designed for door mounting for $5 to $10, or gotten just the little reed switch itself for less than $1. Instead, I decided to spend about $15 to build it myself out of junk. So here's your parts list. Angle brackets, a decorative hasp, a strong magnet, 2 wires, and in honor of this sweet 80s MacGyver hairstyle I have, we're just going to do it with tape. As I said, this is totally level 1, so I'm not even going to solder it together. So I do recommend that if you plan on this staying on your door for more than 3 or 4 openings, that you do go ahead and screw and solder this together instead of taping it. But hey, you never know when you'll be in the middle of a spy situation, need a sudden door alarm that plays cats and can reset a couple times. So here's the plan. I'm going to take a couple of these angle brackets and tape them right at the top of the door. They need to be just far apart. The hasp will fall across and touch the other one. I'm going to take a small piece of tape and connect one of the wires to the bottom of the hasp, making sure that the metal part is in full contact with it. Really push it on there so it makes sure it's nice and tight. Silly as it is, I'm going to actually tape this hasp onto this angle bracket. Drop a piece across the top too. Second wire I'm going to run through the hole in this angle bracket and tape to the bottom. Bending it down just a little so it doesn't stick up too far. There we go, that should make good contact. The magnet, I don't even really need to tape on anything, because magnets. And I'm going to tape this high enough so that it does still attract it, but low enough that it gets it off the wire. Then I'm going to realize that I put this too far away from this for these wires. Better. I'm going to take another piece of tape and put it on top of the wire. I'm going to put it on top of the contact so that it touches the metal, but also prevents the arm from touching it. Now the tape is stopping that from coming in contact. With one wire taped to the connector on the circuit board, we now need to tape the other wire to the metal arm. This allows the circuit to be completed by going through our latch device. Alright, so after a liberal application of tape, seriously, just learn to solder, don't do this. I don't know how MacGyver made it through so many seasons. Maybe it's because he was using duct tape instead of electrical. Nah, gotta stay on brand. So while it looks awful, as long as we hear noise when I open the door, success. You gotta be kidding me. This just worked. Gotta be honest, I'm a little relieved that that worked because I've opened that door 3 or 4 times to middling degrees of success. But, as you can see when the door is closed, the hasp is lifted up by the magnet, and when the door opens, and that's what happens when you use tape. Now don't be afraid when you're building things at home to prototype it out with tape like this. Obviously, now that we have a proof of concept, if I screwed these into the door so that they're dependent on tape, if I bolted the hasp onto the angle bracket so it didn't have as much play, and if I soldered all the connections, this would work flawlessly every time. At least until the watch batteries gave out. The batteries are sort of why I say don't trust this as any sort of actual protection in your house. I mean, aside from the fact that it's only as loud as a greeting card, you won't hear it from very far away. But maybe we can hedge our bets in that category. Let's see if we can make a quick vibration sensor. For our quickie vibration sensor, we're gonna use a nail, a small spring, a wire, angle bracket, more tape, and another one of these delightful musical instruments. Not 100% sure this is gonna work, but let's give it a run. First of all, I'm gonna tape my angle bracket down. So you would put this on something that was touching either the floor or whatever surface you wanted to detect vibrations in. I'm gonna take my spring and kind of put it on the end of the nail. Boing, boing. That goes through the hole in the angle bracket, as we're gonna place this right over the contact that makes the lovely meowing sound. I'm gonna take the wire, I'm gonna connect it from the lever arm on the music box to the end of this spring. Okay, so I got everything taped down. Now we just need to lightly suspend this. So I'm gonna try and just run a small piece of tape over the end of this and see if I can gently lift it up off the contact. So you can see it now gently just floating right over the contact. What we've created here is a vibration switch that's in a normally closed position. That means it's usually in contact with the pad. I had to do it that way with the greeting card because if you lose connection, then it stops playing. However, as long as it's in connection, it'll play all the way through and stop. When this detects a vibration, it bounces the nail off the pad, which causes it to reset and play through the sound again. So now if I bump the table, you just worked. I hate you. So if I bump it, the sensitivity of this can be changed by changing the weight of the nail that you've got here at the end, the length and springiness of the spring. And obviously, I would say if you're gonna do this in a situation where you wanted it to last, you should screw things down, solder the connections instead of having it all taped. And of course, use something other than a greeting card for your alarm because it's not loud. The downfall of this particular style of vibration sensor is it's only gonna work in a gravity-fed position. If I needed to mount it, say, on the side of something, then this configuration wouldn't work because I'm relying on gravity to pull it back into contact with the metal plate. If instead we put the nail into the end of another conductive surface like another spring or a metal tube and used that, then it could detect motion in any direction. You would need that to connect to an alarm that was used to being in an always open state though. That way when it touched the wall just briefly, it would trigger the alarm instead of having to stay in contact with it to make it play all the way through. So this is about as quick and dirty as I can make any sort of motion or vibration detection system. If you guys like level 1 of this and you'd like to see what happens if we go to level 2, I'll give you a hint. It's gonna involve a lot more actual soldering. We're gonna bring out some Arduinos and we're gonna go from just passive to, let's say, neutral. And level 3, if we get there, is active deterrent. If you wanna see that, just make sure that you like and interact with this video. I'm going to start something with this episode of Technical Difficulties. Going forward, I'm going to respond to questions and comments on this video for the first 2 days that it's up. I'm only going to be doing this on the roosterteeth.com version of the video. The first day it comes out for first members only, the second day it's free to everybody, and it does also go to YouTube. I'm focusing on responding on our site because that helps me contain the number of questions I'm going to have and help thank our community for supporting us and making this kind of show possible. Definitely not going to respond to every comment and question, but any that I have a good answer for, or at least something snarky to say, I'll throw it up. Thank you for watching Technical Difficulties. Play us home, cats!